Hello everyone, Griffin here. Now before this podcast starts, I should probably explain the premise of it. Now, this isn't your average couple of guys sitting in a Discord chat room talking. No, this is a fully fledged story. I wrote the script to this podcast, did all the voice acting, a couple of the sound effects, and the mixing. If you've ever listened to Q-Code's The Edge of Sleep, it's practically the same format and style. If you haven't, then get comfortable, for you're in for one heck of a ride. I run. I don't stop. You might be asking yourself, what am I running from? The answer is, it could be anything. I just haven't made it out yet, since it's hard to see because I'm running. I do have some clues about it. It's as dark as a shadow, has a humanoid frame, but a beast-like laugh. Surprisingly, I don't get tired from running, and neither does it. I still glance over my shoulder when suddenly I can't move my head back. And not only that, the rest of my body stops moving. I feel fear mixed with relief when I see the creature frozen as well. Now I can see it a bit clearer. It actually has a bit more beast and animal-like qualities to it. I noticed ears, claws, piercing yellow eyes, a tongue of some sort sticking out, and a mouth shaped like a bear. I squint to get a better look, but everything's getting blurry again. I hear a deep, dark voice that must belong to the demon. I can't make it out entirely, but one line struck me harder than its yellow eyes.
Until tomorrow, Joseph Sanders.
I wake up in a cold sweat. What in the hell was that dream? I've never had a nightmare since childhood, and certainly not one this extreme. After a few seconds, I manage to calm down. I roll over and try to return to slumber, but I couldn't manage to. Eventually, my alarm goes off. Monday. Typically despised, but not too despised now that everything else is. No human contact, no going anywhere, no life. Just another day of seeing people through our screens. Online school. Surprisingly, I decided not to bring up the trauma of last night. I just trudged on through the day until I'm done with my classes, where I decided to do some digging. I pull up videos and articles about everything related to dreams. Lucid dreaming, recurring dreams, nightmares, sleep paralysis, etc. As I recall my dream, I remember a crucial detail. My whole body froze. At first, I thought sleep paralysis might be the answer, and although not off entirely, I was missing the big picture. In sleep paralysis, you're inside your room, seemingly awake, but not quite. The place I was in the dream was certainly not in my room. It was almost like a gigantic bridge across a lake of fire. This then led me to search Lake of Fire, which in a lot of religions serves as a punishment after death. Essentially, hell. What I was doing there, I honestly don't have a clue. But what that beast was doing there, I could probably give a good guess about. I shiver at the thought. After all my research, it all still left me with one question. Why were we both frozen? In preparation for sleep tonight, I decided to work on lucid dreaming techniques, in case I needed to snap myself out of a nightmare. So, I got in bed, went over them a bit more in my head, then I finally closed my eyes. I opened my eyes, but to no avail. I was still in my bed, comfortable under my blankets. I sighed and just closed them again. Soon after, I felt an itch on my face that I really had to scratch, but when I tried to move my arm, it wouldn't. Then I tried my other arm. Nothing. I opened my eyes and looked at my arms. They're still there, just dormant. Thinking I might have injured them some way, I decided to get out of bed and find my parents. Except I don't. More specifically, I can't. My legs aren't moving. My body isn't moving. Nothing is, except my eyes. I try to scream for help, but there's no sound. I'm stuck, helpless and alone in my own room. Then I remember. Sleep paralysis. I'm in a dream. I acutely become aware that there is something lingering in my room. I scan my eyes to find a figure fading into and then out of view. It was very vague, but I knew. It was the beast from my original nightmare. Fear consumes me, and I struggle to breathe. A million what-if scenarios play out in my head. Ever so slowly, my heart still in my mouth, I begin to focus and think it all through. Then a thought comes to mind. Maybe we have this link, where if I can't move my body, it can't move its body either. And it wasn't moving like it did last night until we froze. It just faded in and out of existence, it seemed. Some sort of teleportation? It is a demon after all. I feel another sensation come over me, and I look all over the room again. I see that the demon is trying to be more obscure to my eyes, so it hides in the corner. But as I dart my eyes onto it, it disappears. At least I'm not powerless. But it is learning. After a few seconds, it hides in an even more obscure location to my eyes. I realize something's different about it after I glance at it and it fades. This time, instead of its eyes seemingly piercing me, they're shut. This puzzles me for a moment, but I realize it's trying to stay hidden easier. The bright yellow eyes would give it away, and it would have a chance to... do what exactly? It can't move, so what is its plan? A couple more times of me spotting the demon pass. Regardless of its skill, it's now run out of places to hide in that I'm not now familiar with. I feel triumphant, like even though it's here haunting me, I've still bested it somehow. A few more times go by, and then everything starts to become slowly more blurry. In the darkness, I hear the demon's voice. Unlike last time, I hear a little more of what it's saying.
Your feet fall. I curse murder me. Until tomorrow, Joseph Sanders.
I wake up. I have an itch, and almost sigh with annoyance when I realize I can now move my arm, as well as my whole body. I look at the clock. 7 a.m. I remember again that it was all a nightmare, and yet the fear didn't leave my body. As I sat through my classes, I still felt the constant urge to look around and scare off the demon. I told a few of my friends about it, and of course the typical responses came like, "Are you getting enough sleep?" "Yeah bro, had enough of it." "Have you been watching anything scary lately?" "So far, that nightmare ranks the highest on scary stuff I've watched." Seeing as my friends wouldn't be any help in the matter, however kind and comforting their concerns were, I decided to turn to one place I knew I could trust. The internet. I remember everything I pulled up yesterday about sleep paralysis, seeing as how it could very much show me what the cause is. I saw that the site said that not only was moving not an option in sleep paralysis, but neither was speaking, and that immediately made me recall to when I tried to scream for help. Okay, clearly sleep paralysis is linked to what happened, but with what happened the night before, there was obviously a piece of the puzzle missing. Thinking of how the same demon came up 2 nights in a row, I decided to do some more digging into reoccurring dreams. Something that I read stuck out to me in the articles. Reoccurring dreams usually occur because you feel there's a problem that hasn't been corrected that appears in the dream. This intrigued me, but still didn't make me feel a great deal of relevancy to my problem. I mean, this was the first time I'd ever met this beast demon, so why would it be a significant enough problem in my life to cause a reoccurring dream? Feeling a bit disappointed at my lack of answers, and rather my now surplus of questions, I decided to hit the hay, wondering if I'd have to go through the torment of the last 2 nights. I awake in the middle of the night to a strange sound outside my door. I grab my phone and go to sit up, but then I realize I can't move my legs, or torso. With that, a thought comes to mind. I'm back. The sound made it obvious something, or someone, had fallen outside my door. I activate flashlight mode on my phone, but my door is closed, so the demon has no way of getting in regardless. My light shines on the door, and I see that a silhouette under it disappears. Same old spiel, I suppose. After the initial shock, I regain composure and think things through. Could this be ongoing? How long will it go on? Will I gain control of something each night? Will it gain control of something each night? Why is it staying outside my room? Is it changing its strategy? Why would being further away from me be more effective? Will it still find me? Will it kill me fast or slow? Silent or painful? Will I be stuck here forever? Another sound snaps me out of my trance. It came from outside my door again. But how? It already left, and it doesn't tend to repeat itself. Then I hear a sound from outside. I hear branches. Is it on a tree? I shine my light, and it fades, but flashes me a toothy grin with open yellow eyes this time while doing so. I go over the places outside my room with an entrance to it. There's a door and window, of course, as well as the vents, but unless it has the ability to shrink, it's not going through there. Lo and behold, though, I hear a clunking of my vent, and shine my light upon it. Nothing's there, however, besides the breezy air flowing out. Is it trying to trick me? It could have simply just tapped inside the vent to rattle me, unless it managed to climb through, taking itself apart to squeeze through the gap, only to reassemble itself inside my room to end my life. I shake off the train of thought and continue through the night. It does the usual, and appears outside my door and atop the tree, and attempts to confuse me at the vent a few more times. It may be smart, but hey, at least I've got the home advantage. I realize I've made it through when my vision starts to blur, and I can hear the same, deep, beast-like voice from the last 2 nights.
Your will be downfall. I'm free of curse of murder just me. Until tomorrow, Joseph Sanders.
8 a.m. on the clock is the first thing I see when I wake up. Well, at least it'll let me get 1 more hour of sleep. Although, it didn't help much. I suppose my brain wasn't getting much sleep, since I kept hallucinating, seeing the demon everywhere, hiding in a corner, outside my window, and even in the mirror. The worst part was, it didn't flash once and be done. It stayed and waited once it noticed that I saw it. That is, until I closed my eyes. Then I was safe once more. Until night fell, of course. In preparation, I tried deciphering the events that happened in my dream, and the words the demon spoke to me. But they were too abstract, like a quote taken out of context, or a puzzle piece missing from a jigsaw puzzle. I decided to search for anything surrounding hallucinations, but all the symptoms didn't have to do with me. The closest one was fatigue, but I still felt fine, like I had gotten a usual night's sleep. Still, I wanted to find something. Anything. I tried to Google the yellow-eyed demon, and articles about Unnatural immediately popped up. Being a fan of the show myself, some things kinda made sense. For one, in the show, it would prey on children, newborns to be exact, and although I'm not exactly a newborn, I'm still a child. I kicked myself for not watching more than 1 season. Something else that popped up on the interwebs was someone talking about how demon-like reptilians look with their yellow eyes. Although the demon had a body of a bear, it had those piercing yellows that, although not exactly slit-like, they were still a similar shade to that of a reptile, and not to mention its tongue. Although I never got a thorough glance at its tongue, and I'm glad I didn't that first night, it was kind of long, and I'll bet my bottom dollar that it was forked. Getting into bed, while not empty-handed, but rather near empty-handed, I was kind of hesitant to fall asleep. I yearned for more knowledge. I wanted the truth. I wanted the truth about the demon. I wanted the truth about myself. This night seemed to start out calmer than others. For the first time, and it felt like forever, I had a normal dream. I dreamt I was walking through a forest, when I came across a river, with a bridge to cross it. Naturally, I walked onto it with zero hesitation. However, midway in crossing the bridge, a troll popped out of seemingly nowhere and demanded I pay a fee. "Alright, how much?" I asked. The troll then started laughing uncontrollably. It laughed so hard it started choking. It choked to death, and it lay there for a moment, lifeless. Then it got up, its body a contorted mess, and said, in a voice I was all too familiar with,
Your life.
After that, everything faded away and I woke up. I didn't know what to think. Should I be happy that it wasn't a dream like all the others? Or should I be upset that it distorted itself into a nightmare? I felt the urge to pee, so I rolled out of bed and onto the floor. At first, I thought I was just drowsy and my body didn't want to get up. But then when I tried to stand up, my legs gave away immediately. I cursed silently. Regardless of knowing what laid ahead, I decided to go to the bathroom anyways, just to get it out of the way, for I knew I was in for another long night. Suddenly, as I crawled into the bathroom, the door slammed shut behind me. I sat up enough to try the knob, locked from the outside, which doesn't even have a lock. Looks like we were switching things up for tonight. After I took care of my business, I checked around the bathroom for anything I could use as a source of light, since the lights went out. I remembered my mom kept matches under the sink, since power outages weren't common, but weren't rare. I lit one and found a scented candle to go along with it. I sniffed it. Pumpkin spice. Of course, Mom. The bathroom that I used wasn't too extravagant. It had a toilet as well as a sink with cabinets and drawers around it. We didn't have a tub, only a shower with a tap at the bottom to make a very uncomfortable tub. I wondered what the demon had in store for me tonight. After a few minutes, I heard the sink turn on. I looked, and the handle was turned all the way. I quickly turned it back, but the water that was already there didn't drain. I saw that the stopper was blocking the water from doing so. I reached for the handle to pull it back, when I was astonished to find that it wasn't there at all. I even tried pulling the stopper back up myself. Nothing. It was jammed in. I heard the shower head click on. I go over and turn that off as well. I look at the bottom. None of the water has drained from there either. I tried to pull the stopper from there, but it wouldn't budge. Then, a feeling of dread crept over me. It was trying to drown me, in the slowest way possible. The toilet followed the pattern and the water in it started to rise, so I turned the valve to stop it. And of course, flushing wouldn't work. It felt like I was playing a game about escaping a flood, except I had nowhere to climb or jump to. It kept happening in the same order, and it didn't stop, no matter how many times I tried to make it. Sink, shower, toilet, 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 sink, shower, toilet. Soon, water started flowing out, starting with the sink, then the toilet, then lastly, the tub. The leaked water eventually conjoined at the bottom, and it didn't flow out into the hallway, nor into the electrical sockets. Come to think of it, electrocution sounds way more pleasant than drowning, but even if they were open, they'd probably just fill up anyways. It didn't stop. It didn't stop when it touched my legs, which were still lifeless. It didn't stop when it touched my chest. It didn't even stop when it touched my nose. But still, I was determined, so I climbed on top of the sink counter, water still rising, and waited. Listening to the splashing of the water normally would have been most likely pleasant, but to me, it symbolized my grave. As I listened to the water, the sound became distorted, and as I looked upon it, it became more blurry. Eventually the sounds became a voice, and the surface became a face, belonging to the demon. As my vision was declining, it spoke to me, clear as day this time.
Your fear will be your downfall. When I become free of this curse, I will murder you just like you murdered me. Until tomorrow, Joseph Sanders.
I woke up screaming. My parents came in to check on me. Then, as I started to calm down and think about it all, I felt something that made my heart accelerate like a NASCAR driver flooring the gas. I felt something wet. I felt urine. Normally, wetting the bed wouldn't be such a big deal, but in my nightmare, I went and had to pee in the middle of the night. My dreams were starting to overlap with reality. As I was eating breakfast that morning, no matter what I tried, his words just kept creeping back into my mind. It was a lot to unravel, so when I had time before class, I decided to dissect it and break it down. First, he said,
Your fear will be your downfall.
This was kind of easy to figure out, since it became clear to me that all he was trying to do in the beginning was freak me out, possibly try to get me to die of a heart attack. While unlikely, it's certainly not impossible. Next, he said,
When I become free of this curse.
This wasn't too hard to figure out either, seeing as we're both under the curse of losing, then regaining parts of our bodies. And not only that, he has supernatural abilities. I've seen him teleport, cause me to hallucinate, and judging from last night, he's probably telekinetic. What do I have? Just my flashlight and wits apparently. My odds of survival are certainly not preferable. Lastly, before finishing with his infamous outro, he said,
I will murder you just like you murdered me.
This one, I still can figure out. I mean, it's pretty obvious that whatever his plans are don't include us being happy-go-lucky friends, and this also explains why he targeted me. However, there's one teensy-weensy detail about that is totally off. I've never killed anyone. Like, sure, there's an occasional bumping into someone which causes the butterfly effect and ends with them dying occasionally, but it's the word he used. Murdered. That's telling me that this was no accident. This was 100% my fault. At the very least, I still learned something from the first line. Tonight, I'll have to stay calm. I didn't have all the answers. Heck, not even an eighth of the answers. But I had something. I would have gone to start researching heart attacks and those kinds of phenomenons, but my contemplation took up too much time, and class was about to start. I wasn't feeling up to class today. All I wanted to do was for this to be over, so a cure or even a general explanation would be all I could ever ask for. But hey, I trudged onward back to my room and sat at my desk, and pulled up to class and turned on my camera. When I started to feel incredibly drowsy, I decided to rest my eyes for a moment when I heard a voice. His voice. I immediately opened my eyes to find him staring back at me on my screen, smiling devilishly. It was the first time I could actually see what he looked like. He did have a lot of bear-like features, but he had slits for a nose on his snout, his eyes were that of a reptile, and his tongue was forked. He looked like a virus that invaded my computer to completely obliterate it.
Do you know why I'm here, tormenting you during the day?
He asked. I shook my head.
Well, before I explain why, allow me to give you a little anecdote to help you understand. Think back to the simpler times of 1945, the climax of World War II. There was a man who knew that his reign had come to an end. So instead of fighting on, even though it was utterly hopeless, he decided to surrender his life and commit suicide. Do you know the name of this man?
I thought for a couple of seconds, and then shook my head.
His name was Adolf Hitler. I'm sure you've heard of him. The point is, do you seriously want to keep fighting, even though your chances are next to none? When you could instead give in and surrender? I can make it easy. I can make it painless. All you have to do tonight is nothing. That's all I have to say. Until tonight, Joseph Sanders.
He then left my monitor, and I was left with a very annoyed class who apparently asked me a question 5 minutes ago and never got a response. I didn't care though. I left, even with 20 minutes of it left. Nothing mattered. Nothing except tonight. As I closed my eyes for what could possibly be the last time, you think I'd feel sadness, anger, fear? But I felt nothing. Nothing but the desire to live. This time, my mind wasn't playing any games. I knew immediately, the second I opened my eyes, that I was in his world. I felt that I had full control of my body. I could walk anywhere. So, braving the night, I grabbed my phone and ventured out of my room. I knew he could be anywhere, and I knew once he saw me, clearly not doing nothing like he politely asked, he would be pissed off. So, our roles were switched. I would have to stay hidden, watching him, while he would be looking for me. I stayed on my guard, sticking to one spot for a bit, and then quickly and quietly scurrying to another position. My house wasn't the biggest, might I add. It did have 2 floors, but not that many rooms within each. It didn't take long for him to realize I didn't want to follow his plan. I heard a cry that I couldn't tell whether it was frustration, anguish, or laughter. It reverberated throughout the entire house. This is where the real challenge began. I scampered around, looking for anywhere I could hide as his footsteps rang out. I had to be selective about where I chose to hide. It had to be concealed enough for him to not gravitate towards me, but open enough for a quick getaway if he got too close. Mind you, I could lock myself in the bathroom, but I prefer to reserve that as a last resort. So, I had to settle for crouching and scuttling around a dining room table based on his position when I would be downstairs. And upstairs was tricky, for I had too narrow of a hallway. However, sliding myself behind open doors against walls seemed to do the trick. Eventually, his positioning did push me into a corner, and I was forced to hide behind the couch. I was in a tight spot. I peeked out, and surprisingly didn't see him. I got up to get a better view of the room, when I felt a yank on my arm and was put in a headlock. Not even looking up, I could feel him grinning at me. Without even guessing what would happen, I sank my teeth into his arm, and he yowled. He loosened his grip on me, which gave me a perfect opportunity to escape. But to where? I had nowhere to hide to, and he could outrun me. But maybe I could outlast him. I ran upstairs, hoping to use up more of the nighttime. I heard him charging after me. I didn't look back. I flung myself into my bathroom, slammed the door shut, and locked it. This could buy me maybe a few moments. I hoped that I would wake up, that I could end this nightmare with me not murdered. All of a sudden, whether it was my fault or not, I knew in my heart what I'd have to do. In a flash, he appeared in front of me.
Any last words?
He said. I'm sorry, I replied. This caused him to flinch.
What?
Regardless of what you're going to do to me, I wanted to say I'm sorry.
For what?
For killing you. I don't know when it was. I don't know how it happened. I don't know why I did it. I'm sorry that I did it. The demon was speechless for at least a minute. After that, he smiled, and I could see a tear form from his eyes. Eyes that used to look so inhumane, but now their yellow turned to a wood brown, the color of my eyes.
Thank you, Joseph. You'll never know how much this means to me. Now, I can depart in peace.
And with that, his body turned to dust, and I never saw him again. And neither did I have any nightmares after that. Every night from then on was peaceful and still. Thank you so much for listening. If you're listening to this on YouTube, then feel free to subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified when I release content like this. If you're listening to this on another platform, then do whatever it is you do on Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, or whatever. You know the platform better than me. Credits to all the sound effects I didn't create will be listed and linked in the description. Huge thanks to my backpacker for making the art for this series. Inspiration for this project goes to Scott Cawthon's Five Nights at Freddy's and Q Code's The Edge of Sleep. Thanks again for listening, and have a good one. Peace.